Hi and welcome to Maths with Megan. In today's video I am going to be solving two-step equations involving squares and square roots. This is the second video in the Solving Two-Step Equations series, so if you haven't seen the first one you might want to head back there first just so you've got the initial instruction before moving to the more difficult aspect, which is today's video in squares and square roots. So for the first equation on the left-hand side, we want to solve for the value of x. Our equation is x squared plus 3 equals 12. So as with the previous video, what we want to do is we want to start by getting rid of the thing that is furthest away from the x, and that's the plus 3, not the squared, because you can see the squared is right next to it. How do we get rid of an add 3? We do the inverse, which is taking away 3. We do that to both sides to balance out. Once we've done that, we can cross off this add 3 here, leaving us with just x squared on the left, and on the right we've got 12 minus 3, which is 9. Now, we've got the value there of x squared. We want to solve for the value of x. So we need to get rid of this squared here. What is the inverse of squaring something? What is the opposite of squaring something? The opposite, or the inverse, is square rooting. So I'm going to square root both sides. When I do that, that allows me to then get rid of this squared here, leaving x on its own. And on the right-hand side, we need to find out what the square root of 9 is. So what number, when it's times by itself, gives you 9? Well, that is 3, so x is equal to 3. Now, it's important to note that technically this value could be either positive 3 or negative 3. This is because minus 3 squared, so minus 3 times minus 3 is also 9. I'll just show you how that would work. So if it was minus 3 squared, and we substituted this back into the equation, you can see that minus 3 times minus 3 is 9. 9 add 3 is 12. So your correct answer technically is x is equal to positive or negative 3. However, for the purpose of this video, if you are just getting positive values and the negative bit is too confusing, that is absolutely fine. Let's just stick with positives if that's the case. Okay, looking at the one on the right-hand side, we want to again solve for the value of x. And our equation is x squared minus 12 equals 24. What is furthest away from the x? Is it the squared or is it the takeaway 12? It is the takeaway 12, so that's the bit we want to start off with. How do you get rid of a takeaway 12? Well, you do the inverse of taking away 12, which is adding 12. We have to do this to both sides. That allows us to cross off our takeaway 12 here, leaving us with x squared is equal to 24 add 12, which is 36. Now again, we want to get rid of this squared. How do you get rid of a squared? What is the inverse of squaring something? That's right, we need to square root. So we're going to square root both sides. When you square root x squared, you're left with just x. That gets rid of our squared there, which is what we need. And we want to find out what the square root of 36 is. So what number, when you times it by itself, do you get 36? Well, that is 6. Remember, this could be positive or negative 6. Okay, x is equal to 6. The one on the left-hand side, we've got 2x squared equals 8. Now, do you think we are going to start by getting rid of the 2 or the squared? We are going to start with getting rid of the 2. That squared is right, and I know they both look like they're right next to it, but that x squared is closer together than the times in by 2. So we need to get rid of our times by 2. You get rid of a times by 2 by dividing by 2 on both sides. That leaves us with x squared equals 4. Because 8 divided by 2 gives us 4. Now we need to get rid of this squared. How do you get rid of a squared? Well, you do the inverse. That is square rooting. When we've square rooted x squared, we're left with just x. And now we need to find out what the square root of 4 is. Well, the square root of 4 is 2. So in this case, x is 2. And the one on the right, we want to again solve for the value of x. We've got x squared divided by 10 equals 4.9. What is further away from our x? Is it our x squared or is it our divide by 10? That's right, it's our divide by 10. So we need to get rid of a divide by 10. We do that by doing the inverse of dividing by 10. The inverse of dividing something by 10 is timesing it by 10, which we do to both sides. That allows us to cross off our divide by 10, leaving us with just x squared on the left. And on the right, we've got 4.9 times 10. That's 49. Final step, we need to get rid of the squared. How do we get rid of something squared? We do the inverse, which is square rooting. That leaves us with just x on the left, and on the right we want to find out what the square root of 49 is. What number, when you times it by itself, do you get 49? That is 7. Okay. Have a go at the questions on the screen and see if you can get those answers. Okay, the answers are already there, so you can see if you can reach those on your own, as I'm mindful that these are a little bit tricky. Okay, I will show you how to do them. Hopefully you've had time to pause the video and try them. So in this one here, we get rid of an add 3 by taking away 3. That gives you x squared equals 16. 19 take away 3 is 16. Then we need to square root. So x is equal to plus or minus 4. The next one, we need to add 12. So x squared equals 100. Then we have to square root. So x is 10. Okay, well done if you've managed to follow these. Now we need to divide by 9 first. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. Square root of 1 is just 1. That's a little bit of a tricky one. And the last one, we've got x squared divided by 10 equals 40. So we times by 10 first. That gives us 400. Then we have to square root. And the square root of 400 is 20. Okay, so well done if as you were working you were matching your answers up to the ones that were on the screen. Do not worry about the plus or minus. As long as you could find those values being 4, 10, 1 and 20, then that is brilliant. Okay, now looking at square roots. So this time the square root of x plus 3 equals 5. So again, the furthest thing away is what I'm going to start off with. That's my add 3. So how do you get rid of an add 3? Well, we take away 3 from both sides. When I do that, I'm left with the square root of x on the left. And on the right, 5 take away 3 equals 2. Okay, this time I have got a square root that I need to get rid of. What is the opposite of square rooting something? What is the inverse of square rooting something? That is squaring. So I'm going to square both sides. When I do that, that leaves me with just x on the left. And on the right, I want to do 2 squared. That's 2 times 2, which is 4. Looking at the question on the right, you can see the difference now is that everything is under my square root sign. So under your square root is x take away 3, and we want to square root all of that. So this time, actually, I'm going to start off by getting rid of the square root sign. That's because if I read it out loud, we've got the square root of x minus 3. So we have to move that square over to then leave the x minus 3 on its own. So I'm going to square both sides to start off with now. That leaves me with just x minus 3 on the left. And on the right hand side, we want to square 5. 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. Now I just need to get rid of this take away 3, which we do by adding 3. So x equals 25 add 3, which is 28. Okay, and last example for me to show you before you see if you can match your answers with the ones on the right. The square root of x divided by 2 equals 2. What do you think we start off with this time? What do you think we need to get rid of first? We need to get rid of that divide by 2. So we do that by timesing everything by 2. That leaves me with just the square root of x on the left, and on the right, 2 times 2 is 4. How do you get rid of a square root? You get rid of a square root by squaring. So I'm going to then square both sides. That leaves me with x on the left, and on the right, 4 squared. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, it's over to you. Can you match your answers with the ones that I have put on the screen on the right hand side? 3 questions for you to have a go at. Okay, very well done if you managed to do that. I'm just going to finish this video off with a challenge question. So pause the video. This is a 3-step equation, so taking it 1 step further than what we have previously seen. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, hopefully your first step was timesing by 3 to get rid of this divide by 3. When we times both sides by 3, we end up with the square root of x minus 11 is equal to 4 times 3, which is 12. Now, thinking back to those previous examples, we have to get rid of this square root. How do you get rid of a square root? You get rid of a square root by squaring both sides. When you square both sides, you're left with x minus 11 on the left, and on the right we need to do 12 squared. 12 squared is 144, that's 12 times 12. And now just to finish off, we need to get rid of a take away 11. We do this by adding 11 to both sides. So x equals 155, because that's 144 add 11. Very well done if you managed to do that challenge question. When you are solving 2-step equations with square and square roots, there are multiple different ways that your equations can be formed. So if you've got any questions on any specific questions you've come across that you need help answering, just pop it in the comments below. Thank you for watching.